So before I tear it apart, I do want to say that Andromeda is by no means the worst game of all time. If you like it, that's cool. It's a fun game, or so I've been told. Really, it just suffers under the weight of having to carry that Mass Effect title, which forces it to be compared to the games that came before it. Mass Effect is an iconic trilogy in gaming, and in many ways, it's a lot like Star Wars. It's a character-driven space drama with a galactic-level threat. Using the same analogy, Andromeda is very much the Family Guy Star Wars of the series. But is it really much worse than the original trilogy? I mean, yeah, but why? In an attempt to help offset my nostalgia bias, I've reached out to the only person I know, AJ.
Hey, I'm back.
Now, to keep things short, let's try to avoid talking about any technical comparisons and focus mainly on what makes Mass Effect so special, the characters and the story. As someone who I forced to power through all 4 games in like a month, is it fair to say that Mass Effect is better than Andromeda? And if not, why are we friends?
First, I've got to say thank you for making me play through them.
And I'd do it again.
I would say of the original trilogy that I've fallen hard for it. I love the world, I love the characters, I love the storyline. I don't know that I love Andromeda, but I like it. It's not the best Mass Effect game, but it's an alright game. It has a lot more potential than what it delivered on, and it's hard to get past that disappointment and just enjoy the game for what it is.
This is a story-driven game, so I guess we'll start there. Even though Shepard's adventure is one that carries over from one game to the next, when you start each game fresh, you can figure out pretty quickly, usually within the first hour, what the major threat is. It's really an impressive feat to convey that much information in so little time that both gets new players up to speed without being boring or repetitive for those who are continuing on in the series. Andromeda stumbles here right out of the gate by making it seem like your primary objective is to find habitable worlds, but then adds in a dozen equally pressing problems. I mean, you can spend hours messing around on a planet only to pop back up into space and get a cutscene that reminds you, oh yeah, this big alien guy's been hunting me. Ha, crazy. And then the cutscene ends, you just teleport away and forget about him until the next cutscene. There is no driving goal in Andromeda. It just feels like you're goofing around with really no sense of urgency. So the story is kind of a mess.
Yes.
But what about the main character?
Shepard feels very real. He's, or she, is a military person drawn into events bigger than themselves who is honestly just trying to do their best the best way that they know how. They are a shell that you can project your own personality and characteristics onto. When you choose dialogue options, Shepard says the things that you want him to say in the way that you expect him to say it, which makes choosing your characterization of Shepard much, much easier. You feel like you exist in this world and you've been put in a position to have a great effect on the events. And that's really valuable in any role-playing game.
And Andromeda?
In contrast, Ryder seems to have a pre-established personality to him or her, and almost regardless of the dialogue options that you choose, Ryder will respond in the way that Ryder would respond anyway. Where Shepard was someone who was sort of the right person in the right place and the right time, Andromeda makes Ryder seem like the only person for this place and this time, which is made all the stranger by the fact that the role of Pathfinder is thrust upon you by the untimely death of your father, and really you have no qualification or reason for this apparently very lofty and important title.
I didn't do a thing.
Shepard feels like a way for me to interact with the Mass Effect universe. Ryder feels like a way for me to play the role of Ryder.
Exactly. Shepard is an experienced leader, while the primary leadership qualification of Ryder is nepotism, which makes them a little harder to connect with. Similarly, one of the biggest sore points for me in Andromeda are the supporting characters. The crewmates in Mass Effect, the moments of love and loss, are what makes it so memorable. What makes all of these characters stand out, and I know this might be a shocker, is that they are interesting.
Even Jacob? Really?
Yes, Jacob. They're not all interesting. The generic soldiers like Jacob kind of fade into the background next to the fully tatted, angry telekinetic or the reptilian assassin. But in Andromeda, pretty much everyone feels like a generic soldier. Mass Effect did such a great job at making you care about your crewmates because it gave them varying personalities, it gave them histories and opinions, and expressed all this through exceptional dialogue. Their personalities would clash and create drama, either with you or with other members of your crew. And this isn't to say that Mass Effect was serious all the time, not at all, but when things were serious, so were the characters. It feels like in Andromeda, a lot of this personality has been sanded away. No matter the situation, everyone's just looking for a reason to crack wise.
Nomad's heat isn't doing anything for me.
It's not that cold. Let it go.
Instead of seeing an argument break out between people, you'll hear about an argument. And the solution will just be, maybe we should have a movie night. You get the sense that your crew is just copied and pasted versions of the same person. But what are your thoughts, AJ? Who's your favorite character?
Fuck, is it Morden? Shit, I really didn't like Morden at first, but like, it might be. I kind of like his whole fucking deal.
I am the very model of a scientist Solarian. I've studied species Turian, Asari, and Batarian.
When I first picked up Morden in Mass Effect 2, I thought, meh, another sort of cookie cutter companion stereotype. But the more that I talked to Morden on the ship, understood his background with the STG and his role in the genophage, he became more interesting, more three-dimensional. It made him someone I wanted to talk to. Between missions, I would always find myself running to the research lab to see what's new with Morden. Easily one of the best part of the original trilogy is the incredible cast of characters, and the best part about them is they feel like real people. They are aliens of every color and creed. They have rich histories and backgrounds that are unfamiliar to us, the player, but are to some extent known quantities for Shepard. As such, they don't feel as, pardon the pun, alien as they otherwise could. Their issues are grounded in reality. Contrary to that, I find myself struggling to care about any of the companions in Andromeda. They all seem to be different species of the same personality.
Breached their vault. And didn't get killed. Overcame radiation poisoning a number of times.
And didn't die.
Confronted by Ket at every turn. Once again, did not get killed.
They all seem to have the same thoughts on the events that are going on. Their dialogue options are seemingly interchangeable. It makes me apathetic towards these people and towards whatever it is that they have going on in their lives, because they've made it clear that they don't even think their own problems are more important than mine. So why would I prioritize them?
Exactly to your point, AJ. Mass Effect has exceptional writing. It's able to tell you so much about the characters and the world through natural dialogue. But not only that, it makes the people feel like real people and not just exposition dumps. When a line is said, they react to that line in a believable way. Here's a great example. In the first few minutes of your first mission in Mass Effect, some red shirt named Jenkins in your squad gets killed. You react to it, your squad mate Kaidan, who is also there, reacts to it. After the mission is done and you're back on your ship, people talk about Jenkins' death. People react in a human way. By contrast, in Andromeda, a similar thing happens at the start of that game. Now, this is how the conversation following that death goes down.
We'll come back for his body once we find the others.
Hope Greer's still alive somewhere. Still, take a look at this architecture. This is really something.
Who the hell talks like that? Oh, our friend just died. That's very sad. Oh, look at these buildings. These are nice. It's that sort of inhuman response that makes everything in Andromeda feel so artificial. Was there anything else that stood out to you?
One really interesting thing to me that is unique to Andromeda compared to the other Mass Effect games is the idea of colonizing an uncharted world, creating something from nothing, building a civilization that
will stand the test of time.
That is something that I love, or at least it could be. That seems to be the promise that Andromeda made, but never fulfilled. From the first time you set an outpost down on a new world, the whole experience just feels empty. No matter what you choose, the decision has no impact. Someone may comment at some point, oh, you made the right decision there, but it doesn't affect anything. It's a shallow version of choice. Because of this, something that I thought would be really unique and exciting about Andromeda felt hollow and disappointing.
Right. Making choices in Mass Effect was a big part of its appeal, and any kind of impactful ones feel lacking here in Andromeda, which is another one of its major drawbacks. It's built upon the foundations of this game that's rich with lore and renowned for world building, and it strips all that away and doesn't really replace it with anything. Instead of meeting a new universe full of new aliens to interact with, you get one, and they are so bland, I couldn't tell you a single defining feature about them. With all this said, why do you think Andromeda gets so much hate?
None of this is to say that Andromeda is a bad game. By most accounts, it's quite a good game, but it's also not one that I would go back to time and time again. It's just all right. The issue is when you are comparing it to the games that came before it. If you are a fan of the Mass Effect games, Andromeda just might not be what you're looking for. A lot of the hate that came out early after Andromeda's release, I think, was an expression of that surprise and disappointment that something wearing the Mass Effect title didn't really fit with what we've come to expect from Mass Effect games.
Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything.
I have nothing against Andromeda. It's just not what I'm going to reach for when I feel like playing Mass Effect.
You nailed it. Taken by itself, Andromeda is not the worst game ever.
Thank you.
Many people love it, but they'll often preface that with but it's not my favorite Mass Effect game. The problem with Andromeda, aside from the writing and the world building and the characters, when compared with Mass Effect, is that there's a lot of wasted potential in Andromeda. It could have gone full Star Trek, leaning heavily into the exploration angle, meeting new races, figuring out how to survive in a completely cut-off galaxy on your own. But instead, it just falls short. Well, AJ, it's been fun to have you here to echo all my feelings on Mass Effect and Andromeda.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you about Mass Effect.
Had to be me. Others might have gotten it wrong.
And thanks for letting me talk gaming with you.